topic is 3 diseases of small intestine. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
3 diseases of small intestine today will cover, mainly concerned with the infection. First one is acute appendicitis. Pathogenesis of acute appendicitis, gross and microscopic feature and complication. These are the topics. Now, age onset is adolescent or young adults, and it is more common in male than females. And lifelong risk of every individual is 7%. So it is a disease of young individual, and most important cause is obstructive cause. In many etiology, many cases you will not find any cause, but it has been said that most important cause is obstruction of the lumen of the appendix. And the most common obstructing agents are fecalith. What is fecalith? Fecal means lith means stone, fecal stone, fecalith. And less commonly are gallstone, small tumors, worm, intravenous vermiculus. There is wrong spelling here. VE is there. Any foreign material and or lymphoid hyperplasia in the submucosa. So these are the common causes of obstruction of the appendix. They lead to acute appendicitis. The most common cause is fecalith, then gallstone, tumor, worms. That is one important is intravenous vermiculus. And then any foreign material, like food material and all, something there. And then lymphoid hyperplasia. So these are the common obstructive causes of acute appendicitis. Now there is another non-obstructive causes. Infection from any other part, hematogenous spread from generalized infection, any vascular occlusion, and inappropriate diet lacking roughage. This roughage is wrong spelling. It is P is here. It is written G. Wrong typing. So these are the non-obstructive cause: infection, vascular occlusion, inappropriate diet. So you have to divide the etiology into two, that is obstructive and non-obstructive. And you remember the causes of obstruction as well as non-obstructive. Non-obstruction is mainly infection, which is hematogenous spread, vascular occlusion, that is leading to ischemia and infection. And third is roughage, lack of roughage, which may lead to constipation and obstruction, especially meat diet. It's more common in people who eat meat. So these are the etiological agent, obstructive and non-obstructive. Now what is pathogenesis? So etiology, I have told you, obstructive and non-obstructive etiology of acute appendicitis. In many cases, you will not find any cause actually at operation, and there may not be any apparent inflammation of appendix, but still there are cases of clinically appendicitis. So obstruction of lumen by various causes, which I have told you, obstructive causes, they increase the intraluminal pressure because the secretion of the appendix does not come out and it accumulates. So inside the pressure increases, and that pressure will lead to venous obstruction first, then later as arterial obstruction, and that will lead to ischemic injury. Now, whenever there is ischemia, there will be bacteria. There are plenty of bacteria there. They will proliferate, and it will lead to suppurative appendicitis. If there is further ischemia, that is, if there is a arterial obstruction or prolonged venous obstruction, there will be necrosis of appendix, and there will be gangrene formation. So gangrenous appendicitis, suppurative appendicitis, and gangrenous appendicitis. So this main cause is obstruction and blockage of the secretion, leading to luminal pressure increase, which leads to ischemic injury, superadded infection, then further ischemia, leading to gangrene formation. So this is pathogenesis. So obstruction and pathogenesis. Now, what is a gross appearance? This will be kept in practical, so you must know this because this will definitely come in that. Of course, my one batch has already gone practical examination, so they must be knowing appendix must have been there. So appearance varies from grossly normal. As I told you, many cases there will be normal appendix. Then it may be very hyperemic, that is congested, hemorrhagic, or it may be necrotic with fibrinopurulent coating, that is suppurative. So appearance may be normal, it may be hemorrhagic, means blood color, or it may be fibrin purulent, means pus. Pus will be there. So this is the gross appearance. Serosa is often congested. Rupture may be evident in some cases. Mucosa shows ulceration and hyperemia. Lumen may contain pus and blood, and fecal leaks may be present. So these are the gross morphological features. One is on the surface of the appendix. Then, if it is rupture or it is a serosa, you can see. And then we cut and open the appendix. You see the mucosal ulceration and hyperemia. In the lumen, there may be pus, there will be blood, or there may be fecal leaks. So always you examine gross by external examination and by cutting open the appendix longitudinally. So you can see the mucosal surface and anything which is blocking the appendix. So this is the gross morphology of acute appendicitis. Now, what are the stages? First is early acute appendicitis. Second is acute suppurative appendicitis. Third is acute gangrenous appendicitis and perforative. So depending on the gross appearance, you can say it is what type of, if it is black color, it is gangrenous. It is perforated, you can see the content coming out, it is perforated. If it is covered with the purulent material, pus, then it is a suppurative. And if it is only red hyperemic appendix, then it is acute appendicitis early. Now this is acute appendicitis, you can see it is red and hyperemic. These are the fecal leaks. You see, these are the fecal stones, 2, 3, they are blocking the lumen. And this is a very chronic obstruction, so you can see the wall is thickened of appendix because it's trying to push the content outside, but it is blocked, so it gets hypertrophy. How the fecal is come, see, it is coming from here and it blocks the lumen. Now under microscope you will find vessel under the serosal surface, they are congested and there is neutrophil infiltration and edema of all the layers. So this is very important. You have to look for this neutrophil infiltration of the wall of the appendix. And as the process advances, there may be focal abscess formation in the wall, that is called acute suppurative appendicitis, or further vascular compromise leading to sloughing of mucosa and gangrenous necrosis. That is a black color, this appendix, that is acute gangrenous appendicitis. And depend on the acute appendicitis diagnosis, if you find this neutrophilic infiltration in muscular layer, that is diagnosed. You must, in many cases I told you they appear normal, but if they are under microscope, if they show neutrophilic infiltration in the muscular, that is very important. Of course, neutrophilic infiltration will be everywhere, all the layers. In the lumen, there will be pus. But if it is an early case where there is not much advanced inflammation, then you only look for under microscope muscular layer neutrophilic infiltration. This is important. So either when you get a slide of acute appendicitis or gross appearance, you have to write few points and that 1, 2, 3, what you are seeing. You have to describe that. Under microscope also you have to describe the all layers are infiltrated with neutrophils. In the lumen there is a pus or whatever content is there, and there is a serosal hyperemia. Muscular layer is involved with the neutrophilic infiltration. All these things you will lead to, or if there is a pus collection or there is a necrosis, all those things you have to mention. Now this is a gross microscopic appearance of low power view. You see all the layers of the appendix are infiltrated by acute inflammatory cells. And here, you see the villi here, villi are gone. So this must be ulcerated. Now in high power, you see these are all neutrophils. And they are all infiltrating in all the layers. This is muscular layer, this is some mucosa layer. So all the layers are infiltrated by the neutrophils, acute inflammatory cells. Some eosinophils are there here. See? Now this is a, what is this? This in low power, this is in high power. This is one of the intravenous vermicularis inside in the appendix lumen. Partial ulceration, see there is no this villi here, they are ulcerated, surface mucosa, and acute inflammation is all the layers, and this is ova of the intravenous vermicularis. This is the ovum of the intravenous vermicularis. So this is obstructing the lumen of the acute appendix, causing acute appendicitis. Now coming to complications of acute appendicitis, acute rupture leading to escape of infected suppurative. There are a lot of spelling mistakes. You just correct it. Suppurative content in peritoneum causing peritonitis. Yeah, there is also wrong here. Appendicular abscess leading to formation of abscess in the right iliac fossa. There is a lot of spelling mistake. Adhesion, that is momentum, small intestine, other parts may get adhere to each other and form a lump. Then portal pylophlebitis, spread of infection into mesenteric vein. That is called septic phlebitis, means veins, portal veins is involved. That is called pylophlebitis, infection of the portal vein. Then distension of distal segment of mucus, sebile mucus, collection of mucus in the lumen. That will lead to dilated large appendix containing lot of mucus in the lumen. That is called mucocele. Now this is distension of distal segment by mucus following a recovery due to proximal obstruction. So this is formation of mucus. So acute rupture, complication, appendicular abscess, adhesion of the different component of the small intestine with the momentum, small intestine, another portal pylophlebitis and mucosis. So these are the complication of the acute appendicitis. So we have covered the acute appendicitis. Etiology, it occurs in young adults. Then etiology mainly obstructive. Most important obstructive causes of fecolic. There may be a gallstone, there may be a small tumor, there may be a hypertrophy of the lymphoid follicles, or there may be any foreign substance in the lumen. And non-obstructive causes is hematogenous spread of infection. Then there is a thrombosis of the vessels, and of course, then there is another one, that is a constipation, that is a lack of roughness. Then pathogenesis is mainly because of obstruction of the lumen and leading to increase in luminal pressure, leading to venous increased pressure and venous obstruction, leading to ischemia, later on necrosis, superadded infection, and acute appendicitis. So that is a pathogenesis and etiology. Morphology, I told you, gross morphology and microscopic. Gross morphology, early cases it is acute hyperemic appendix. Then there may be suppurative foci on the surface, may be acute suppurative appendicitis. And third, if it is black color, it may become a gangrenous appendicitis. And if there is a leakage of content out due to perforation, it is perforated. So those are the morphological gross features. Now under microscope, we'll find most important thing is infiltration of all the layers of appendix by neutrophils. then mucosal ulceration, then presence of lot of pus in the lumen, and then serosal, subserosal blood vessels will be congested and hyperemic. And in the luminal content, you will find sometimes ova of the heterobius. Now coming to complication, acute rupture, appendicular abscess, adhesion, portal pylophlebitis, and mucosa. So this is a acute appendicitis. Now we go to the next topic. Any question in acute appendicitis? Hello? You want to sleep?
No.
So you don't have any question?
No, sir.
Okay. Now second component of the lecture is typhoid of intestine. This is also called enteric fever. This will be dealt with in detail in microbiology, will be mainly confined to the pathology, that is morphology of the typhoid of the intestine, and will also briefly cover the etiological and pathogenesis and complication. Now this is called, as I told you, enteric fever or typhoid. Pathology of enteric fever or typhoid. Caused by Salmonella typhi, Salmonella pyrotyphi A and B. Incubation period is 1 to 2 weeks, and duration of illness is 3 to 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, generally it resolves, or a patient may die, whatever it is, by complication. So this is either is cured or it. So duration of illness 3 to 4 weeks. Causative organism Salmonella typhi, paratyphi A and B. Now this is the cycle, how the infection enters the body through contamination of the food by fecal fetal contamination. Now sir, this S. typhi bacteria you see here, it enters through the M cell. Through the M cell, they must be having receptor for this, and through M cells, this comes to the, see this is T cell, and this is a paired patch. So it comes into pairs patches. What are pair patches? These are lymphoid aggregates in the submucosa and mucosa. So those are localized collection of lymphoid tissue in the mucosa, and that is called pairs patches. So Salmonella typhi enters to the M cell in the pairs patches. From there it goes via lymphatics to the mesenteric lymph node, and via thoracic duct it enters the blood, and there is this bacteremia. It lies in spleen, in the liver. From liver it is secreted into the gallbladder, and via bile it comes to the intestine again, and there it multiplies and causes necrosis and ulcer. But there is a second bacteremia again. There is a second bacteremia also, and that may lead to all the complication of the, like meningitis, myocarditis, osteomyelitis. Wherever the organism goes, it causes inflammation. So this you should remember the cycle of the, from pairs patches, from out the gut it comes to pairs patches, through lymphatics, thoracic duct it goes to blood. There is bacteremia, septicemia, then in different organs, through liver, bile it is coming to again small intestine, where in pairs patches it multiplies and again causes a second bacteremia. So this is a life cycle or chart. See, ingestion, ileum enters via M cell, phagocytosed by macrophages, reaches pairs patches, then goes to mesenteric nodes via lymphatics, via thoracic duct causes bacteremia, then different organs, reticuloendothelial cells like spleen, liver, and all those. So incubation period, during incubation period, this is the thing happening. That is the 1 to 2 weeks incubation period. This thing is happening. Then invasion. Intestine, as I told you, it comes and lodges in the intestine, causes second bacteremia. I told you, and after that, any organ it may go and cause inflammation like osteomyelitis, myocarditis, meningitis. There are various complications, I'll tell you last. And then fever, bradycardia, rose spot, constipation, all those clinical features will come. Clinical feature is not in a part, but fever starts low and increases daily, reaching as high as 104 or 105. There is a terrible headache, weakness, fatigue, muscle aches, sweating, dry cough, loss of appetite, weight loss, abdominal pain, constipation, rose spots, extremely swollen abdomen. These are the clinical features. When you come to the clinical side, you will be taught again. These are the rose spots. These are because of those bacteremia and septicemia. Now coming to morphology, what is the intestinal lesion in the gross? It is either enlargement of Peyer's patches. So Peyer's patches are raised above the mucosal surface because they are inflamed. So Peyer's patches in the terminal ileum are enlarged and raised above the mucosal surface. And draining lymph node are also enlarged. I told you, Peyer's patches multiplies, it also involves the lymph node. Then the covering mucosa of the Peyer's patches is shed and it causes an oval ulcer. And this ulcer is oriented along the axis of intestine, longitudinal axis of intestine. And this is in contrast to tuberculous ulcer, which is circumferential, which is transverse. We'll come to differentiation between a typhoid ulcer and ulcer, tuberculous ulcer. So you should know one is longitudinal and the other one is horizontal. There is also stricture, lot of fibrosis, tuberculosis, there is narrowing of the lumen. So one is transverse, the other one is vertical. And in typhoid, there is no significant fibrosis. In tuberculosis, there is a lot of the Peyer's patches enlargement, then ulceration on the surface of the Peyer's patches, which is longitudinal to the lumen of intestine, and there is a ulcer formation. Now, under microscope, what you will see? There will be hyperemia, blood vessels will be congested, there will be edema, there will be cellular infiltration. Now, this is a very important. What type of cellular infiltration you will get? It will be mainly mononuclear, that is macrophages. And these macrophages contain bacteria, they are phagocytosed, bacteria, RBCs, nuclear debris, mixed with lymphocyte plasma cells in superficial lamina propria. So this is very important. There is no neutrophils. So neutrophils are absent in typhoid, intestinal typhoid, that is a typhoid ulcer. So these macrophages are mainly the cells, macrophage, lymphocyte and plasma cells. There is no neutrophil. There is hyperemia, that is vascular congestion, and infiltration by mononuclear cells, that is a macrophages, lymphocyte, plasma cells in lamina propria. These are ulcers superficial. And these macrophages have got ingested RBC. This is called erythrophagocytosis. Phagocytosis of RBC, that is called erythrophagocytosis, and this is one of the diagnostic criteria of acute, typhoid ulcer or typhoid. Even in lymph node, you will find this erythrophagocytosis. So this is a very important for microscopic diagnosis of typhoid. This is erythrophagocytosis and absence of neutrophil. So these two things one should remember: absence of neutrophil and erythrophagocytosis, chronic inflammatory cells. Then there are maybe Typhoid nodules in the liver, focal necrosis of hepatocyte and collection of these mononuclear cells, that is macrophages in the liver, that is called typhoid nodule in the liver. These mononuclear cells, which I told you, it has ingested the nuclear material and RBC, and they are called Mallory cells. They are called Mallory cell, MALLORY, and they show erythrophagocytosis, means they engulf the RBCs. And this is a very characteristic of microscopic feature of typhoid ulcer. Now this is a enlargement of Peyer's patches. See longitudinal, this is a small intestine, and this is a longitudinal raised above the mucosal surface. So this is a enlargement of Peyer's patches in early cases of typhoid ulcer. Now these are the early cases of typhoid, these are ulcerated. Those Peyer's patches, mucosa is shed, so it forms ulcer. And these are 1, 2, 3, 4, these are all Peyer's patches ulcerated, and this ulcer longitudinally located, terminal ileum typhoid ulcer, that is as perpendicular to the axis, long axis of the small intestine. It is not a transverse, it is along the long axis of the small intestine. That you have to remember. Now here is a comparison. This is a longitudinal typhoid ulcer, and this is a tuberculous ulcer. These are tuberculous. This is tubercular ulcer. This is a not perpendicular. This is a horizontal. Now this is the typhoid nodule in the liver. See, there is necrosis of hepatocytes and collection of macrophages. Plenty of macrophages forming a nodule. Here, hyperplastic Kupffer cells and lymphocytes. Kupffer cells are what? They are macrophages. Now coming to complication of enteric fever or typhoid, meningitis. As I told you, because of bacteria, second bacterium, they go and lodge and proliferate. We are talking about complication of enteric fever. Local complication is perforation of ulcer in 3rd week, and there is a peritonitis. So this is the most dreaded complication of typhoid. If there is a perforation of that ulcer, then it will lead to peritonitis, and it has to be immediately operated, emergency surgery. Now there are this is the most dreaded complication, and it occurs in 3rd week. You should remember this. Now others are meningitis, endocarditis, empyema. What is empyema? Pleura, pus, inflammation of pleura and collection of pus, that is called empyema. Myocarditis, periostitis, that is periosteum of the bone. Osteomyelitis, arthritis, architis, that is the inflammation of the testis. Mesenteric lymphadenitis, cholecystitis, degeneration of abdominal muscle, which is called Jenker's degeneration, and carrier state in gallbladder and gallstone. That is a gallstone is another complication, and it is a carrier state. So these are the various complications of the enteric fever. First is local, that is perforation, that should come first, and then others: meningitis, endocarditis, empyema, myocarditis, periostitis, osteomyelitis, arthritis, architis, lymphadenitis, mesenteric, cholecystitis, gallbladder stones, carrier state, and Jenker's degeneration of the abdominal muscle. So these are the various complications of typhoid. So we have covered typhoid. Now colonization of the gallbladder by the Salmonella typhi leads to the carrier state. And this is very dangerous because it's dangerous for the society, because these people secrete this bacteria in the feces, and this water contamination will lead to epidemic of the typhoid fever in the society or in locality where they are staying. Now Typhoid Mary, the lady who was responsible for Typhoid Mary Mellon, also called Typhoid Mary, 1907 first carrier in United States. She became the first carrier in United States to be identified. And she was a cook in New York. Her gallbladder had this salmonella, so it was being through bile, it was coming to intestine and in the feces, and she spread the infection to the client who came to the eating or whatever. Now she was advised to remove the gallbladder, which she refused, and she joined by false name again. And later on, she was quarantined after another typhoid outbreak, and she died of pneumonia after 26 years in quarantine. She was always kept in quarantine. She refused the cholecystectomy. So the typhoid Mary is first carrier of typhoid in the United States in New York, and this is called typhoid Mary. She is called colonization of gallbladder carrier state. So that is a typhoid. Now third topic is tuberculosis of intestine. Again, pathogenesis, gross and microscopic features and complications. Now, tuberculosis, I told you there are two types, primary and secondary. Primary tuberculosis, it has been taught to you, I think, not general pathology, no. Microbiology, I don't know. Anyway, primary is unsensitized host. That is four types of inoculation, either skin or through lungs or through the intestine. All these methods of inoculation of tuberculosis bacilli. Now, we are concerned with intestinal tuberculosis. Here, primary tuberculosis via unpasteurized milk. And there is a intestinal lesion. That is, there is a primary lesion, primary ulcer in the mucosa, and the adjoining lymph node, draining lymph node is enlarged. So that is called Ghon complex. So intestine also, like lung, you will find Ghon complex, mucosal lesion as well as lymph node. So that is primary tuberculosis. Secondary tuberculosis is because of lung infection initially, or the patient had a tuberculosis earlier, means he is sensitized and there will be secondary infection. Now here, in secondary, the most common is pulmonary tuberculosis, which is open pulmonary tuberculosis, and the patient swallows his own sputum, and these bacteria, mycobacteria, go into stomach and they lead to tuberculosis intestine or tuberculosis of intestine. So these are two ways of tuberculosis of intestine. One is primary, one is secondary. We will be talking about each one of them. Now, 6 most frequent extrapulmonary sites can occur in any part of GIT. Most common site is ileum and cecum, ascending colon and jejunum. Actually, right side it forms a mass in ileocecal region, confused with the tumor, cancer. Organism reaches via intestine. These are the methods of infection, that is hematogenous route from lung focus, ingestion of active case from adjacent organs, and ingestion of unpasteurized to primary tuberculosis. These will lead to secondary tuberculosis. Now, bacilli in depth of mucosal gland, they will cause pathogenesis. So that was a mechanism of infection. Pathogenous through oral route, through milk. Now, so bacilli in depth of mucosal glands, they lead to inflammatory reaction. They are phagocytose. The phagocytes carry the bacilli to the Peyer's patches. Formation of tubercle and necrosis. Endarteritis, inflammation of blood vessels, edema, and sloughing of the mucosa. Ulcer formation. Accumulation, that is fibrosis, leading to thickening and stenosis of the lumen. Inflammation spread from submucosa to serosa, and bacilli by lymphatics lead to lymphatic obstruction and this regional lymphadenitis. So that is pathogenesis, means bacteria enters to the mucosa, goes on phagocytose, goes to Peyer's patches, then regional lymph node, it forms the tubercle, means tuberculosis means caseous necrosis, granuloma formation, and then ulceration. So that is mechanism is same as in anywhere else. Ulcer and fibrosis. What is morphology? Now, primary intestinal tuberculosis, I told you there is no primary immunity. So it occurs in developing countries due to ingestion of unpasteurized milk. Now it is very uncommon because the milk we get is already pasteurized, or we don't take cold milk after it is coming from the cow or buffalo. It is caused by Mycobacterium bovis. Most cases are caused by mycotoxins. Now this is almost gone, as I told you, because we don't take unpasteurized milk. So Mycobacterium tuberculosis is most common cause. Predominantly changes in mesenteric lymph node without any significant lesion in intestine. Like in lung, you get a parenchymal lesion in the lung. In the lung tissue, you will get a lesion, granuloma, and as well as in the lymphatic drainage lymph node. Here, you don't get a lesion in the mucosa, but you will get a lymph node enlargement, that is mesenteric lymph node. So, affected lymph node is large and matted and caseous. Caseous necrosis will be there. Wherever tuberculosis is there will be caseous necrosis. And that is called tabes mesenterica, the name. Later, healing and fibrosis and calcification. So that is self-limiting disease. Is primary, generally self-limiting, and that is primary tuberculosis of intestine. There is a lymph node, mesenteric lymph node involved. Mucosal lesion is not there. That's also not there, and it is called tabes mesenterica. Now, secondary intestinal tuberculosis, because there is immunity. This is second infection, so patient is sensitized to it. So immune system of the patient would react. So here it is swallowing of sputum, by swallowing a sputum from lung focus. And here the intestinal, that is mucosal lesion, are more common than lymph node lesion. That is the difference in primary and secondary. Terminal ileum and cecum most commonly involved. That is ileocecal tuberculosis called. And there is, as I told you, there is a lump in the right iliac fossa. Morphology, there are three types of ileocecal tuberculosis and intestinal tuberculosis. One is ulcerative ileocecal tuberculosis, that lesions begin in Peyer's patches with the formation of a small ulcer that spread via lymphatics to form large ulcers. And these ulcers are transverse in long axis of bowel. They are called girdle ulcers. So this is different from a typhoid ulcer. These ulcers are transferred to the long axis of the bowel, and they are called girdle ulcers. And serosa is studded with visible tubercles. So that is the ulcerative type of intestinal tuberculosis, ulcerative type of ileocecal tuberculosis. The second is hyperplastic ileocetic tuberculosis. This is in young person with adequate resistance, so there is a lot of fibrosis and inflammation, chronic inflammation. So in young person with adequate resistance, there is a thickening. There is a thickened bowel wall with lymph node enlargement because of hyperplasia, a lot of fibrosis, a lot of chronic inflammation cells. The extensive chronic inflammation and fibroblast reaction in some mucosa serosa with fibrosis and adhesion of bowel loops. And it usually presents as a right iliac fossa mass, which is mistaken for carcinoma. So second type of ileocecal tuberculosis is hyperplastic ileocecal. Or you can say there are three types of intestinal tuberculosis. One is ulcerative ileocecal tuberculosis. Second is hyperplastic ileocecal. Because ileocecum is the ileum and cecum are the most common. Terminal ileum and cecum are the most common site of tuberculosis. Now third one is structurous form. This shows multiple or single very tight structure. I told you there is a lot of fibrosis, so there is narrowing of the lumen at the particular where the ulcer is. So there is a stricture formation. So that is third is structurous form of tuberculosis. So these are grossly three types of tuberculosis of intestine. First is ulcerative, second is hyperplastic. Ulcerative means ulcer is there, which is a transverse ulcer. In hyperplastic, there is a lot of chronic inflammation and proliferation of fibroblasts, and it's a lump, and there is adhesion of the adjoining loop, so it forms a lump in the right iliac fossa. And third one is stricturous form, that is multiple single or multiple tight structure of small intestine. Under microscope, all the lesions, whether it's hyperplastic strictures and all, their diagnostic feature is tubercular granuloma, that central area of causation surrounded by erythroid cells, surrounded by lymphoid cells and fibrosis. So that the same features will be there everywhere in tuberculosis. Now this is ileocecal mass, hyperplastic tuberculosis, which has been removed. This is appendix. So this is a confused with the tumor, and that's why it has been removed. Under microscope, we'll find that it is a tuberculosis, not a cancer. Now these are all structure form. Tuberculous ulcer. This is a horizontal ulcer to the lung axis. It is not like this. It is here. 1, 2, 3. So this is terminal ileum. This is cecum. These are the transverse ulcer in tubercular intestine. You can see here. See the stricture. These ulcers, they are forming strictures, healing fibrosis. So there is a obstruction in this tuberculosis of the intestine because of structure. See, these are multiple ulcers, and these are they are marked. There are strictures. Now this surface of, as I told you, serosal surface, there are multiple tubercles will be there. These are round, these are tubercles. Nodular masses of tubercles. In the intestinal side, you may see the aphthous ulcer, colon. See, this is a microscopic picture. Confluent granuloma. Now coming to complication of tuberculosis of intestine, as I told you, obstruction is the most common cause, most common complication. Hyperplastic ileocecal tuberculosis, structure of small intestine and common multiple adhesion that will lead to obstruction. Then perforation, these ulcers may be perforated. It is second cause of perforation. First was typhoid. Usually single and proximal to the stricture. It is because of dilatation of the proximal loop, where stricture is there proximal to this line, means above the stricture there will be obstruction, so there will be dilatation of the intestinal component and there will be rupture there, that will lead to perforation. And of course, because of disease of small intestine, there will be malabsorption because of overgrowth of the bacteria and the stagnant loop, bile salt deconjugation, diminished absorption, surface due to ulceration and blockage of lymphatics and lymph nodes. So these are, in typhoid there are many complications. In appendicitis also there are gangrenous, perforation, peritonitis, mucocele. Here it is obstruction, perforation and malabsorption. In typhoid there are multiple complications starting from local perforation to systemic, that meningitis, myocarditis, pericarditis, empyema, then osteomyelitis, periosteitis, then cholecystitis, gallstone, all those things there and here. So these are the complications of tuberculosis of small intestine. Now this is also finished. So I have finished 3 conditions, small lectures of diseases of small intestine. First was acute appendicitis, which is very important for you because we have got plenty of the specimens, so it will be definitely asked in your practical, either slide or a specimen. So you should know. And since it is the most common complication and it is simple to remember, so it is also asked in theory very often at your level. It will not be asked at MD level, but at your level, appendicitis is very simple to remember. Causes, obstruction, non-obstruction, and gross features, different types of appendicitis, and under microscope, acute inflammation of all the layers. And if there is early inflammation, neutrophil muscular layer is very important indicator of acute appendicitis. Ulceration of the mucosa, as well as in the lumen you will find pus cells, or you may find some ova of the parasite, or you may find some fecalith or something. So all those are acute appendicitis. Typhoid ulcer, a typhoid of intestine will be again taught in microbiology in greater detail because Salmonella typhi and paratyphi will be taught. And from our point of view, it is the typhoid ulcer, its morphology, Under microscope, morphology it is longitudinal, along the axis. Under microscope, you must remember the Mallory cell, which is called Mallory cell, and it has got phagocytosed RBC. This macrophages have got phagocytosed the red cell, that is erythrophagocytosis, and there is absence of neutrophils in the typhoid under microscope. So these are important points to remember. Of course, tuberculosis, microscopically anywhere it will be the same tubercular caseous necrosis, that is a tubercular granuloma. You know what is that. And then mechanism is primary tuberculosis, which is through the oral mucosa, and there is no lesion in the mucosa, but there is only enlargement of lymph node, mesenteric lymph node, that is cutaneous mesenterica, and this occurs in immunized or unsensitized host, that is by taking the unpasteurized milk, which is very rare now, so doesn't occur. So it is example of one of the sites of primary tuberculosis. When we come to tuberculosis, we'll be talking to you about primary tuberculosis site and different site of primary tuberculosis, different site of secondary tuberculosis. Now, tubercular ulcer, I told you, is horizontal, and it causes a lot of fibrosis, so it leads to narrowing and stricture formation. And different types of tuberculosis, that is ulcerative ileocecal tuberculosis, hyperplastic and stricture forming. So these are the different 3 types of tuberculosis. Microscopically, under microscope, of course, you'll find that caseous necrosis. So that is a tuberculosis. Complication is obstruction, perforation, and malaria. Any question you can ask me now. I have finished.